The small spaceship broke through Earth's clouds, its silver hull catching the morning sunlight. Inside, 5 students from across the galaxy clutched their seats. None of them had ever visited a Deathworld before. "Approaching landing zone," announced the ship's computer in a calm voice. "Earth atmospheric conditions, oxygen levels toxic to Centaurians, gravity dangerous to Pleiadians, temperature hazardous to Sirians, humidity lethal to Tau Cetians, and radiation concerning for vegans." Blue's skin rippled with fear, the usual, bright cyan of his face fading to a pale tint. As a Centaurian, his people breathed methane gas. Earth's oxygen-rich air would burn his lungs without his special breathing mask. "Why did we agree to this?" he whispered to the others. Gray shrugged 4 of his 6 limbs. "The Galactic Academy said it would look good on our records." Being from the low-gravity Pleiades collective, he wore mechanical leg supports to help him stand in Earth's crushing pull. Red checked her thermal suit for the 5th time. The indicators all showed green, but she couldn't stop worrying. Coming from the ice plains of Sirius Major, Earth's mild spring felt like sitting inside an active volcano to her. "I heard humans drink water." "Actual water, full of microbes and minerals," said Green, his wide eyes blinking nervously behind protective goggles. On his desert homeworld of Tau Ceti, water in such large amounts was seen as a dangerous substance. Purple, the tallest of them all, ducked to avoid hitting her head on the ceiling. "Remember what Professor Zott told us," she said. "Earth is classified as a death world not because it's the most extreme planet, but because the humans can survive almost anything. That's why the Galactic Academy wants us to study them." The ship landed with a soft thud on a green field. Through the viewports they could see strange rectangular buildings made of something called brick and concrete, instead of proper metals or grown coral. Hundreds of humans walked between these buildings, most of them young. "Welcome to Westridge University," said the computer. "Local time is 9:15 a.m. Outside temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Please ensure all protective gear is active before exiting." The 5 alien students checked their equipment one last time. Each wore specialized gear to keep them alive in Earth's harsh conditions. They looked like space explorers ready to walk on a hostile moon, not exchange students arriving for a semester abroad. The door slid open and Earth air rushed in through the filters. They smelled something strange. Plants, water vapor, and 1,000 scents they couldn't name. A human stood waiting at the bottom of the ramp. He wore only thin fabric coverings and had no protective gear at all. His face was stretched in what they recognized from their cultural training as a smile, a baring of teeth that somehow wasn't meant as a threat display. "Hi there, I'm Tom, your student guide. Welcome to Earth." The human's voice was loud and enthusiastic. He waved, all 5 fingers on his right hand at them. The aliens huddled closer together. They had studied humans, of course. They knew these beings could break bones with their bare hands, run for hours without stopping, eat almost anything, and survive injuries that would kill most sentient species. Humans could bite through flesh, see in low light, and even regrow certain tissues when damaged. They were, by galactic standards, terrifying. Tom seemed not to notice their fear. "Let me help you with your bags. The dean is excited to meet our first extraterrestrial exchange students. This is history in the making." Blue stepped forward first, his translator working to convert his chemical speech into English. "Thank you for your welcome. We are honored to be the first participants in this program." Tom grabbed Blue's luggage, lifting what should have been a heavy case with shocking ease. The aliens exchanged nervous glances, another reminder of human strength. "So," Tom said as he led them across the grass, "you're arriving just in time for one of our biggest traditions. The annual intercollegiate coach war starts next week." Red's translator must have malfunctioned, the aliens thought. It sounded like the human said war. "I'm sorry," Purple said carefully. "Did you say war?" Tom laughed. "Yeah, it's the highlight of the spring semester. 12 schools compete. Coach Miller has been training all year for it. He says with you, 5 joining us, we have a real shot at beating Eastlake University this time." The aliens stopped walking. "You expect us to participate in a war?" Green asked, his skin darkening with stress. Tom turned around, his face showing confusion. Well, yeah, that's part of the exchange program. Cultural immersion and all that, don't worry, it's super fun. The aliens couldn't believe what they were hearing. The information packet from the Galactic Academy had mentioned cultural activities and sporting events, but nothing about warfare. Is this why Earth is considered a death world? Gray asked. Because you force visitors to fight in your battles? Tom's eyes widened. Then he burst out laughing. He laughed so hard he had to put down Blue's luggage and bend over, holding his stomach. Oh, man, he finally said, wiping his eyes. I see the confusion. It's not an actual war. It's just what we call the competition between our sports coaches. Each school's athletic department competes in a series of events. We call it a war because it gets pretty intense, but nobody gets hurt. Well, not seriously. The relief was immediate but short-lived. What kind of events? Blue asked cautiously. Oh, you know, normal stuff. Running, swimming, team sports, obstacle courses, strategy games. Coach Miller heads our physical education department, so he leads our team. Swimming? Green whispered in horror. On his world, large bodies of water housed the most dangerous predators. Running? In this gravity? Gray looked like he might faint. Outside? In the open air? Blue's breathing mask whirred faster. Tom's smile faltered. Hey, don't worry. Coach Miller knows you guys have different, physical needs. He'll find ways for everyone to participate safely. Just then, a loud bell rang across the campus. The aliens jumped, reaching for emergency buttons on their suits. That's just the class bell, Tom assured them. Look, there's Coach Miller now. A large human jogged toward them across the grass. This one was bigger than Tom, with more muscle mass and less hair on top of his head. He wore bright clothes with the words, Westridge Athletics, printed across the chest. You must be our space students, the coach boomed, his voice even louder than Tom's. Welcome to Earth. I'm Coach Miller and I can't wait to get you on the team. He reached out and slapped Purple on the back, a gesture of friendship that nearly knocked the tall alien over. The team needs all the help it can get this year, Coach Miller continued. Eastlake's Coach Wilson has been bragging all winter about his new training techniques. But wait until he sees I've got 5 students from across the galaxy. Ha! His face will be priceless. The coach looked at them with bright, eager eyes. So, what special abilities do you all have? Super strength? Telepathy? Extra arms could be useful for the relay races. The 5 exchange students looked at each other, in growing panic. This human thought they had special powers. In reality, they were struggling just to stand on this dangerous planet without their bodies failing. We do not have what you would call special abilities, Blue tried to explain. In fact, by comparison to humans, we are quite fragile. Coach, Miller's smile didn't dim at all. Nonsense, everyone has their strengths, we'll find yours. First team meeting is tomorrow at 7 a.m. sharp on the practice field. We'll introduce you to everyone and start basic training. Basic training? Red squeaked. Sure. Nothing too rough for the first day. Just a 5-mile run, some strength assessment, and maybe water survival skills if we have time. 5 sets of alien eyes widened in pure terror. I think, said Tom, noticing their reaction, maybe we should get them settled in their rooms first, Coach. Let them adjust to Earth gravity and atmosphere. Good thinking, Tom. Rest up, Space Cadets. Tomorrow we make history as the first interplanetary Coach War team. With another bone-rattling pat on Purple's shoulder, Coach Miller jogged away. As they watched him go, Blue turned to the others. I believe, he said slowly, that we have made a terrible mistake. Tom picked up their luggage again. Come on, guys. It's really not as bad as it sounds. The Coach War is actually pretty fun. On our worlds, Purple said quietly. What you call fun we call survival training. As they followed Tom toward the dormitories, a crowd of human students began to gather, pointing and whispering at the strange visitors. Look, one said loudly. Those must be the aliens Coach Miller was talking about. Do you think they're as tough as they look? Another laughed. They better be. Coach Wilson already has 3 weightlifters and a marathon runner on his team. The foreign students couldn't believe their ears. Somehow they had traveled across the galaxy to study humans, only to become unwitting participants in a Deathworld's idea of a friendly competition, and the coach war hadn't even started yet. The 5 alien students did not sleep well their first night on Earth. Their special rooms in the university's science building had been modified for their needs, but nothing could fully prepare them for the planet's constant noises, its strange smells, and the terrifying knowledge that tomorrow they would face whatever basic training meant to these fearsome humans. Blue lay awake, his breathing mask hissing softly as it converted oxygen to methane. From the next room he could hear Gray adjusting his anti-gravity supports, trying to find comfort in Earth's crushing pull. Down the hall, Red's cooling system hummed as it fought to keep her body temperature bearable in what humans called room temperature, but felt like an oven to her. Green had sealed his quarters and filled them with dry air, fighting the horrible dampness of Earth. And Purple, whose people slept standing up, kept bumping into the ceiling whenever she dozed off. Morning came too quickly. Tom knocked on their doors at 6:30 a.m., his voice cheerful. "Rise and shine, Space Cadets. Coach Miller is waiting." They dragged themselves to the dining hall first. The humans were eating foods that looked strange and smelled even stranger. The alien students had brought their own nutrition packs from home, specially designed for their different biologies. "You're not going to try pancakes?" Tom asked, looking disappointed as he sat down with a plate stacked with flat brown circles covered in sticky amber liquid. "We cannot digest your food," Red explained. "It would make us very sick." "That's too bad," Tom said, pouring more of the amber liquid over his food. "Earth cuisine is amazing." Purple watched with horror as Tom cut into the food and put it in his mouth. "You are consuming plant and animal matter directly into your body, without processing it first?" Tom nodded, his mouth full. "Best way to eat." The aliens looked at each other. Humans didn't just survive on this death world. They seemed to enjoy its dangers. After breakfast, Tom led them to a large open field where Coach Miller waited with about 20 human students. Everyone wore the same bright clothes with Westridge Athletics printed on them. "Here they are," Coach Miller shouted when he saw them. "Our cosmic competitors." The human students stared at the aliens with curious eyes. The aliens stared back, from behind their various protective gear. "First," said Coach Miller, "let me explain what the Coach War is all about. Every spring, 12 universities in this region compete in a series of athletic and mental challenges. Each school's head coach, that's me, leads their team. The winning school gets a big trophy, lots of glory, and bragging rights for a year." He pointed to a tall metal cup displayed in a glass case at the edge of the field. "That's last year's trophy. Eastlake University won it. This year it's coming back to Westridge." The human students cheered and clapped. The aliens just looked confused. "So, it's not actual combat?" Blue asked through his translator. Coach Miller laughed. No, it's a sports competition, though things can get pretty intense, especially in the final rounds." "What exactly do we have to do?" Gray asked, leaning heavily on his mechanical supports. "Great question." Coach Miller rubbed his hands together. "This year's Coach War has 6 events. The obstacle course challenge, the academic bowl, the relay race, the swimming competition, the strategy game, and the final endurance test. With each event named, the aliens felt more and more doom settling over them. "And this year's theme is embracing diversity," Coach Miller continued. "Each team must show how they incorporate different strengths and abilities. That's why you 5 are so important. You bring literal diversity from across the galaxy." A tall human student raised his hand. "Coach, are there rules about using, alien abilities? Seems kind of unfair if they can do stuff we can't." Coach Miller nodded. "Good point, Jack. According to the official rules, non-human participants may use their natural abilities, but no technological advantages beyond what's necessary for their survival on Earth." The aliens exchanged worried glances. The humans thought they had special powers. They didn't understand that without their technological advantages, the aliens would simply die on this hostile planet. "Before we start training, let's introduce ourselves," Coach Miller said. "I want everyone to say their name and something special they bring to the team." The human students went first. Jack was tall and good at something called basketball. Emma was fast and held the school record in track. Marcus was strong and competed in wrestling. The list went on, each human describing physical abilities that sounded impossible to the aliens. Then it was their turn. "I am Blue," said the Yar. Centaurian nervously. "We cannot breathe your air. Without my mask, I would die in minutes." There was an awkward silence. "But what are you good at?" Coach Miller prompted. Blue thought for a moment. "On my world, I am a mathematician. I can calculate complex equations very quickly." Coach Miller's face lit up. "Perfect for the academic. Bull. Next." "I am Gray," said the Pleiadian. "My world has 1/3 of Earth's gravity. These supports help me stand, but I cannot run like humans." "But?" Coach Miller waited. "But I have 6 limbs and excellent hand-eye coordination. Fantastic for the strategy game." Next, one by one, the aliens explained their limitations and their few possible contributions. Red had excellent night vision. Green could change his skin, color slightly to match his surroundings. Purple had extraordinary hearing and could detect sounds humans couldn't hear. To their surprise, Coach Miller found each of these minor traits exciting. The human students, too, seemed impressed rather than disappointed. "Now that we know each other," Coach Miller said, "let's see what you can do. We'll start with a light warm-up." What followed was anything but light to the aliens. The humans jogged easily around the field, their bodies seemingly unbothered by Earth's gravity, temperature, and air. The aliens struggled to keep up, even for one lap. Blue had to stop and adjust his breathing mask. Gray's supports whirred and strained. Red's cooling system went into emergency mode. Green kept as far from the field's sprinklers as possible. Purple tried to copy the human's movements but found her longer limbs tangled up. After the warm-up, Coach Miller divided them into groups to try different activities. The aliens were paired with human students who were supposed to help them learn the basics of Earth sports. That's when they had their first visitor. A vehicle pulled up beside the field, and another human in bright clothes stepped out. This one's clothes were blue and gold instead of Westridge's red and white. "Miller," the newcomer called. "Thought I'd stop by and see what you're up to this year." Coach Miller's friendly face suddenly hardened. "Wilson, spying already?" The other coach laughed. "Just friendly reconnaissance. And what do we have here?" He walked over to stare at the alien students. "Space students? Really, Miller? That's your strategy?" "Eastlake has 2 international students this year," Coach Miller said defensively. "We've gone interplanetary. The theme is embracing diversity, remember?" Coach Wilson circled the aliens, looking them up and down. "They don't look like much. Can they even handle Earth conditions?" Blue felt his skin ripple with embarrassment. The human was right. They were struggling just to stand on this field. "What do you expect from beings from that backwater mudball?" Coach Wilson said with a smirk. The aliens weren't sure what he meant at first. Then they realized he was talking about Earth. Coach Wilson was mocking the human's own planet. To everyone's surprise, Green stepped forward. His protective goggles gleamed in the sunlight as he faced the rival coach. "You are wrong," Green said, his voice steady despite his fear. "Earth is not a backwater mud ball. It is classified as a death world because it has produced the most adaptable species in the known galaxy." Coach Wilson raised an eyebrow. "Oh? You have never seen anything like human endurance," Green continued, surprising even himself with his words. "On my world, we study humans because they can survive conditions that would kill most sentient beings. They eat plants and animals. They drink water full of minerals. They breathe oxygen. They stand under open sky with only a thin layer of atmosphere protecting them from space. And they do it all without noticing." Coach Miller was staring at Green with wide eyes. So were the human students. "These humans," Green said, pointing to the Westridge team, "run for fun. They swim in natural bodies of water. They stay outside during temperature changes that would send most species into hibernation. They are not weak. They are terrifying." There was a moment of silence. Then Coach Miller let out a whoop and slapped Green on the back, carefully as he'd learned the aliens were fragile. You tell him, Green. Westridge is going to win this year because we understand what real diversity means. Working together. Despite differences, Coach Wilson's smirk had faded. We'll see about that, Miller. We'll see. He turned and walked back to his vehicle. As he drove away, the human students gathered around Green. Did you really mean that? Emma asked. About humans being terrifying? Green's skin flushed a darker shade. It is what we learn in our xenobiology classes. Earth is considered one of the hardest planets to visit because its conditions are so extreme and variable, and humans are considered one of the most durable species because you can adapt to almost anything. The human students looked at each other with new eyes, as if they'd never considered this perspective before. All right, team, Coach Miller said, clapping his hands together. Let's get back to training. We've got a Coach War to win. As they returned to their practice stations, the aliens realized something had changed. The humans looked at them with new respect. And they, in turn, had discovered something unexpected, pride in being associated with these incredible beings from a death world. Maybe, just maybe, they could survive this Coach War after all. The next few days were the strangest the alien students had ever experienced. Every morning they joined Coach Miller and the human team for training. Every evening, they collapsed in their modified rooms, exhausted and amazed by what they had seen. Humans are even more remarkable than our studies suggested, Purple said as they gathered in Blue's room to compare notes after a particularly difficult day. They don't just survive on this death world, they enjoy its challenges. Blue nodded, his breathing mask making a soft hissing sound. Today I watched Jack fall down and damage his ankle joint. On my world, such an injury would require a cybernetic replacement. But Coach Miller just put frozen water on it and told Jack to walk it off. And he did. That's nothing, said Gray, adjusting his gravity supports. I saw Emma run for 1 hour straight, 1 hour in this gravity. And she was smiling the whole time. Red shuddered, her thermal suit working overtime to keep her cool. Marcus invited me to join something called a sauna tomorrow. He said they sit in a small room and make it hotter on purpose. For enjoyment. I told him it would kill me. Green, who had been quiet, finally spoke. I think I understand now why humans are the way they are. This planet forces them to be tough. They can't change it, so they've adapted to enjoy its dangers. The door opened, and Tom poked his head in. Hey, Space Cadets, Coach Miller wants you at the lake tomorrow morning. Bring your gear. After he left, the aliens looked at each other in horror. The lake? Green whispered. A large body of unprocessed, unfiltered water, full of microorganisms and minerals. Coach Miller mentioned the swimming competition. Purple reminded them. I guess we need to learn about it. None of them slept well that night. The next morning, they stood at the edge of what humans called a small lake, but looked like a vast, dangerous ocean to the aliens. Coach Miller and several human students were already there, some of them wearing minimal clothing that exposed their skin directly to the air. Today we practice for the swimming competition, Coach Miller announced cheerfully. Don't worry if you've never swum before, we'll teach you the basics. The aliens hung back nervously. Is it safe? Blue asked, looking at the dark water. Of course, Coach Miller said. Well, as long as you can swim. If not, you could drown. But that's why we have lifeguards. He pointed to 2 humans sitting on tall chairs watching the water carefully. Drown? Red asked, her translator struggling with the word. It means to die from breathing water instead of air, Tom explained helpfully. But it almost never happens with proper supervision. The aliens' fear grew. Humans casually mentioned death as if it were a minor inconvenience. I cannot enter the water, Green said firmly. On my world, such large water bodies are where apex predators live. Also, the moisture would damage my skin. I understand, Coach, Miller said. You can help from the shore. What about the rest of you? The other aliens also had reasons they couldn't enter the water. Blue's breathing apparatus wasn't waterproof. Gray's support system would short-circuit. Red would experience thermal shock. Purple's eardrums would rupture from the pressure. Coach Miller looked disappointed but nodded. Well, not everyone needs to swim for the competition. Let's find other Ways you can contribute. For the next hour, the aliens watched in amazement as humans voluntarily submerged themselves in the lake. They swam with powerful strokes, diving beneath the surface and emerging minutes later, apparently unharmed by either the water or the lack of air. "They're like amphibians," Blue muttered. "But warm-blooded and with advanced intelligence. Fascinating and terrifying." As they observed, Jack limped over to join them. His ankle was wrapped in some kind of supporting material, but he was walking. "How was your injury?" Blue asked, genuinely curious. "Will you recover without cybernetic replacement?" Jack looked confused, then laughed. "It's just a sprain, not a big deal. I'll be back to normal in a week or so." "A week?" Blue couldn't hide his amazement. "Your body can repair such damage in a week?" "Well, yeah," Jack said. "Bodies heal, don't yours?" The question made Blue realize how different they truly were. "Our healing is much slower. Such an injury would take months to repair naturally. Most choose cybernetic replacement instead." Jack seemed fascinated by this. "So you're part machine?" "Most Centaurians have at least some cybernetic components by adulthood," Blue explained. "It's more efficient than waiting for natural healing." Their conversation was interrupted by a shout from the lake. One of the human swimmers was waving. "Coach, there's something in the water." Coach Miller ran to the edge of the lake, suddenly alert. "Everyone out of the water, now!" The aliens watched, in alarm as the humans quickly swam to shore. Was it one of the apex predators Green had feared? "What is it?" Coach Miller asked the swimmer who had shouted. "Not sure," she said, pointing to a spot in the lake. "Something big moved under me." Everyone stared at the water. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a dark shape broke the surface, a furry head with whiskers and bright eyes. "It's just an otter," Coach Miller said, laughing with relief. "False alarm, everyone." The humans relaxed immediately, some even going back into the water. The otter swam around playfully, diving and resurfacing. "What is an otter?" Purple asked, her translator unable to find an equivalent. "A small mammal that lives in the lake," Tom explained. "Totally harmless to humans. Kind of cute, actually." The aliens watched the creature with caution. On their worlds, wild animals were almost always dangerous. The casual way humans coexisted with other species was difficult to comprehend. After swimming practice, Coach Miller led them to a different field for what he called coordination drills. Here humans threw and caught various balls with remarkable precision. "How can they do that with only 2 eyes and no echolocation abilities?" Red wondered aloud. To her surprise, Coach Miller heard her. "Good question. It's all about practice and depth perception. Want to try?" Before Red could refuse, he gently tossed a soft ball toward her. Instinctively, she raised her hands to protect herself and caught it. "Nice catch," Coach Miller said. "You have good reflexes." Red stared at the ball in her hands, feeling an unexpected sense of accomplishment. Throughout the day, each alien discovered something similar, a small skill they hadn't known they possessed. Gray, with his 6 limbs, could hold and move multiple objects at once, making him unexpectedly good at a game called juggling. Blue's mathematical mind quickly grasped the angles and forces involved in throwing. Green found that his ability to change color, even slightly, was useful for demonstrating camouflage techniques. Purple's sensitive hearing allowed her to detect movements others couldn't hear, giving her an advantage in reaction tests. The most surprising moment came late in the afternoon. The team was in the university's library, preparing for the academic bowl portion of the Coach War. Purple was struggling with a mathematics problem that seemed simple to the humans. "Your number system is strange," she said, frustrated. "On Vega, we use 15-dimensional calculations." "Maybe you could show us how you do math," suggested Emma. "It might help with some of the advanced problems." Purple hesitated, then began to explain vegan mathematics. To her surprise, the humans were fascinated. They asked questions, made connections to their own mathematical theories, and even suggested ways to combine the 2 approaches. By the end of the session, the team had developed a new way to solve certain problems, a hybrid of Earth and vegan methods. This is exactly the kind of thing that will give us an edge in the coach war, Coach Miller said, excited. Different perspectives working together. As the aliens walked back to their rooms that evening, they felt different. The fear of Earth was still there. The planet remained objectively dangerous to their biologies, but something else had grown alongside it, a sense of belonging, of contribution. The turning point came unexpectedly. They were crossing the main campus when they heard a loud crash. Purple's sensitive hearing picked it up first, and she turned to see what had happened. A large metal rack of sports equipment had fallen over near the gymnasium, and beneath it was a small figure, another alien student who had arrived just yesterday from a distant star system. Without hesitation, Coach Miller ran toward the scene. The human moved with shocking speed, reaching the fallen rack in seconds. With a display of strength that made the aliens gasp, he lifted the heavy metal structure with one arm while pulling the trapped student to safety with the other. "Are you okay?" Coach Miller asked, checking the new alien for injuries. The alien was fine, shaken but unharmed thanks to Coach Miller's quick action. As they watched this, Blue turned to the others. "Did you see that? He put himself in danger to help someone he barely knows." "The same traits that make humans dangerous," Purple said slowly. "Their strength, their speed, their seeming disregard for their own safety, also make them incredibly effective protectors." Green finished. Something shifted in their understanding. Humans weren't just terrifying because they could survive almost anything. They were remarkable because they used that ability to help others survive too. For the first time since arriving on Earth, the 5 alien students felt truly safe. Not because the death world had become less dangerous, but because they were surrounded by beings who had mastered its dangers and were willing to face those dangers to keep others safe. Maybe, just maybe, they were on the right team after all. The day of the coach war arrived with what the humans called perfect weather. To the alien students, it was a terrifying mix of bright sunlight, scattered clouds, and a gentle breeze carrying millions of plant reproductive particles through the air. "Are you ready, team?" Coach Miller asked as they gathered at Westridge University's main sports field. Around them, teams from 11 other schools were also assembling, a colorful mix of uniforms and banners. The alien students were as ready as they could be. 2 weeks of training had done little to make Earth less dangerous to their biology, but it had changed something else: their confidence. They had found ways to contribute despite their limitations. Blue adjusted his breathing mask. "I am prepared for the academic bowl." Gray tested his gravity supports. "My coordination has improved for the strategy challenge." Red checked her thermal suit. "I will try my best in the relay race." Green blinked behind his protective goggles. "I have practiced the camouflage techniques." Purple stretched her long limbs. "My hearing will help during the team challenges." Coach Miller beamed at them. "That's the spirit. Remember, it's not about winning every event. It's about working together and using our diverse abilities." A loud whistle blew, and the 12 coaches gathered at the center of the field. The head judge, an older human with a clipboard, addressed them. "Welcome to the 35th Annual Intercollegiate Coach War. This year's theme is Embracing Diversity, and I see some very diverse teams." The judge's eyes lingered on the alien students with curiosity. "Let's review the rules. Each team will compete in 6 events. Points are awarded for first, second, and third place in each event. The team with the most points at the end wins the trophy." The first event was the obstacle course. Each team had to navigate a complex path filled with walls to climb, tunnels to crawl through, ropes to swing on, and mud pits to cross. 5 members from each team would run the course, and their combined time would determine the ranking. "I cannot participate in this," Blue said, looking at the mud pits with horror. "My breathing apparatus would fail." "Me neither," said Green. "The moisture would damage my skin." Coach Miller nodded. "We planned for this. Jack, Emma, Marcus, Lisa, and Tom will run for Westridge. The rest of you can help from the sidelines. Call out warnings, give directions, anything to help our runners." The humans suited up, stretching their muscles and looking eager to begin. The alien students watched in amazement as Coach Miller, a human in his 50s, joined the team to demonstrate parts of the course. "Watch how I handle the rope swing," he told them, effortlessly grabbing a thick rope and swinging across a pit of mud. "It's all about timing and grip strength." When it was Westridge's turn to run, the alien students positioned themselves at different points along the course. Purple used her sensitive hearing to warn Tom of a competitor approaching from behind. Green's color-changing ability helped guide Emma through a dark tunnel. Blue calculated the perfect angle for Marcus to throw a required object over a wall. Gray used his 6 limbs to signal complicated directions to Lisa. Red, despite her discomfort in Earth's heat, spotted an easier path through a maze that the humans had missed. Working together, the Westridge team completed the course with the third best time, earning them valuable points. "Great teamwork," Coach Miller shouted, high-fiving everyone. Even the aliens had learned this human gesture of celebration, though they were careful not to hit too hard with their different physiologies. Second event was the Academic Bowl, where teams answered questions on various subjects. Blue, with his mathematical mind, was a natural for this event. To everyone's surprise, he answered complex physics questions faster than any human. "How did you calculate that so quickly?" the judge asked after Blue correctly determined the trajectory of an object thrown with specific force and angle, accounting for Earth's gravity and air resistance. "On my world, we must calculate similar problems constantly due to our atmospheric conditions," Blue explained. "It's basic survival mathematics." When asked about Earth's biology, however, the aliens struggled. Questions about how plants converted sunlight to energy, how animal bodies repaired themselves, or how Earth's ecosystem maintained balance were completely foreign to them. Fortunately, the human team members covered these topics. Between them, they earned second place in the Academic Bowl. "We're in second place overall," Coach Miller announced as they checked the scoreboard. "Only Eastlake University is ahead of us." As if summoned by his name, Coach Wilson appeared, surrounded by his team. They wore blue and gold uniforms and looked confident. "Doing better than I expected, Miller," Coach Wilson said with a smirk. "Your space cadets actually seem useful." "They're not just useful," Coach Miller replied. "They're an essential part of our team." Coach Wilson laughed. "We'll see how essential they are after the swimming competition." The aliens looked at each other with worry. They had practiced supporting their human teammates from the shore, but none of them could enter the water. When they arrived at the lake, a surprise waited for them. The swimming competition wasn't just about speed. It also included demonstrations of rescue techniques, water safety knowledge, and boat handling. "This is perfect," Coach Miller said. "Blue and purple can manage the rescue boat with their communication skills. Gray can handle multiple lines and equipment with his 6 limbs. Red can spot swimmers in distress with her keen vision. Green can signal from shore with his color changes." Eastlake still won the swimming competition with their excellent human swimmers, but Westridge took a respectable third place, earning more points. By the third event, the relay race, word had spread through the competing schools about the space students who were braving Earth's harsh conditions. Other alien exchange students who had been hiding in their climate-controlled dormitories began to appear at the sidelines, watching with a mixture of terror and admiration. The relay race required each team member to run a portion of a track, passing a baton to the next runner. Most of the aliens couldn't run fast enough in Earth's gravity, but they found other ways to contribute. Gray, with his 6 limbs, developed a unique baton passing technique that saved precious seconds. Red, when it was her turn, surprised everyone. She had been training in secret, building up her stamina. When she received the baton, she ran her section slowly but steadily, refusing to give up despite the heat that threatened to overwhelm her thermal suit. As she approached the final stretch, her suit began to beep in warning. The temperature was rising too high for her safety. The crowd grew quiet, sensing something was wrong. "Red, stop," Coach Miller called. "Your health is more important than the race." But Red kept going. She had seen how humans pushed through pain, how they endured discomfort for their team. With a final burst of effort, she passed the baton to Tom, then collapsed on the track. Coach Miller and the medical team rushed to her side. They quickly moved her to a cooling station, where ice packs and shade helped her body temperature return to safe levels. When she regained consciousness, the entire Westridge team was waiting anxiously. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen, Coach Miller said, his voice a mix of concern and pride. I wanted to contribute, Red said weakly. Like a human would. Coach Miller shook his head. Humans know their limits, Red. We push them, yes, but we don't ignore safety. Don't scare us like that again. The team finished in 4th place in the relay race, but something more important had happened. The other teams were looking at Westridge and its alien students with new respect. During a break before the strategy challenge, Coach Wilson approached them again. This time his tone was different. That was impressive, he admitted, looking at Red. Not many beings would push themselves that hard on a planet that's trying to kill them. We're learning from the humans, Blue said simply. Coach Wilson seemed to consider this. Maybe we all are. He turned to Coach Miller. Good luck in the next events, you're going to need it. As he walked away, the alien students noticed other coaches watching them with curious eyes. Some even approached to ask questions about their homeworlds, their experiences on Earth, and their participation in the Coach War. They're treating us like real competitors now, Purple observed. Because you are, Coach Miller said. You've earned their respect. As the announcer called teams for the strategy challenge, the alien students felt something new. Pride in being part of this human event, this celebration of determination and teamwork on a planet they once feared. The death world was still dangerous, but they were no longer just surviving it. They were competing on it alongside the remarkable beings who called it home. The 4th event of the Coach War was the strategy challenge. Teams faced complex puzzles and games that tested their thinking rather than their physical abilities. For the first time, the alien students felt they had a real advantage. This is where we shine, Blue told his teammates as they entered the university's main hall, where game tables had been set up. The strategy challenge had 3 parts. A complex board game similar to chess, but with more pieces and rules, a team puzzle-solving race, and a resource management simulation. In the chess-like game, Blue's mathematical mind calculated moves far ahead. Gray's 6 limbs allowed him to move pieces with incredible speed and precision. Together they defeated Eastlake's best players, earning 1st place in that section. For the puzzle-solving race, the entire team worked together. Purple's sensitive hearing picked up whispers from other teams, giving them hints. Green's ability to change color helped him mark different puzzle sections without using tools. Red, still recovering from the relay race, spotted patterns others missed. Final puzzle, announced the judge. This is a 15-dimensional mathematical problem that requires calculating optimal resource distribution across multiple systems. The human students looked worried. Such complex math was beyond most of them. But Purple's eyes widened. This is like calculations we do on Vega, she said. I can solve this. As other teams struggled with the unfamiliar math, Purple worked quickly, explaining her approach to the human students. I need to think like a Vegan, Tom said, trying to follow her logic. Purple shook her head. No. Think like a human. Take a shortcut. She remembered how humans often found simple solutions to complex problems, what they called thinking outside the box. Combining her vegan training with human creativity, Purple solved the puzzle in record time. 1st place in the strategy challenge goes to Westridge University, the judge announced. The team celebrated wildly. Coach Miller hugged everyone, being careful not to damage the aliens' protective gear. We're tied with Eastlake for overall points, he told them. It all comes down to the final event, the endurance challenge. The alien celebration faded. Endurance was exactly what they lacked on Earth. Their protective systems were designed for short-term use, not extended activity. What exactly is the endurance challenge? Blue asked nervously. A 10-kilometer race through mixed terrain, Coach Miller explained. Hills, forest paths, a stream crossing, a true test of stamina and determination. The aliens looked at each other in dismay. Even with their training, such a long journey through Earth's hostile environment seemed impossible. We'll never win that, Gray said, his gravity supports whirring as he shifted his weight. Our equipment isn't designed for such extended use. Coach Miller gathered them all in a circle, his face serious but kind. Listen to me, he said. This isn't about winning. It's about showing up. It's about doing your best, whatever that means for you. He looked each alien in the eyes. Earth isn't special because it's the toughest planet in the galaxy. It's special because we never stop trying, even when the odds are against us. That's what I want you to remember today. His words gave them courage, but the aliens still felt doubt as they lined up at the starting point. All 12 schools were there, their teams stretching and preparing. Coach Wilson and his Eastlake team looked confident, their blue and gold uniforms gleaming in the sunlight. The judge raised a starting pistol. Runners ready! With a loud bang, the race began. Human students from all schools shot forward, their powerful legs carrying them quickly across the field toward the forest path. The aliens tried to keep up, but Earth's gravity and atmosphere worked against them. Blue's breathing mask labored with each step. Gray's support strained under continuous use. Red's cooling system beeped warnings about overheating. Green kept as far from wet areas as possible. Purple's long limbs, while good for stride length, tired quickly in Earth's pull. Within minutes, the aliens were falling behind. Ahead, they could see Coach Wilson running with his fastest students, quickly taking the lead. But something strange was happening behind them. Coach Miller wasn't with the front runners. He had stayed back, jogging alongside his slowest team members, the aliens. Pace yourselves, he encouraged them. Slow and steady, we'll finish together. Other human students from West Ridge also fell back, forming a protective group around their alien teammates. Jack, his ankle still healing, matched his pace to Gray's. Emma ran beside Red, watching her thermal readings and suggesting rest when needed. Marcus helped guide Green around wet patches on the path. Why are you doing this? Blue asked between labored breaths. You could be ahead winning points. Coach Miller smiled. Because no one gets left behind. That's the real Westridge way. The race path grew more challenging. Hills rose before them, steep and covered with loose rocks. The alien students struggled up these inclines, their various support systems pushed to their limits. Halfway through, the course disaster struck. Blue caught his foot on a tree root and fell hard, cracking part of his exoskeleton and damaging his breathing apparatus. The mask began to hiss, methane mixing dangerously with oxygen. I can't continue, Blue gasped, panic in his eyes. Without proper atmosphere, he would die in minutes. Without hesitation, Coach Miller lifted Blue onto his back. I've got you, he said, and began carrying the alien up the hill. The other aliens and human students watched in amazement. Coach Miller was 52 years old, already tired from running, and now carrying an alien who weighed almost as much as he did. Yet he kept going, one step at a time, refusing to leave anyone behind. Let me try to walk, Blue said after about a kilometer, his mask patched with emergency sealant from the first aid kit Tom carried. You've done enough. Coach Miller gently set him down but stayed close, ready to help if needed. This scene repeated itself throughout the race. When Green's protective goggles cracked at a stream crossing, Emma gave him her sunglasses and helped guide him. When Purple's long limbs began to cramp painfully, Jack and Marcus supported her between them. When Red's cooling system faltered, in the afternoon heat, Tom poured his water bottle over her thermal suit to help cool it. By the time they reached the final stretch, Westridge was far behind the other teams. Through the trees, they could see the finish line across an open field. Many teams had already finished. Eastlake's blue and gold uniforms were visible among the celebrating groups. We've lost, Gray said, his voice tired but accepting. Have we? Coach Miller asked. Look around you. The alien students looked at each other, at their human teammates, at the path they had traveled together. They had crossed 10 kilometers, of what was, to them, the most hostile environment imaginable. They had faced hills, forest paths, a stream crossing, and they had survived. Not just survived, but kept going. Let's finish this together, Coach Miller said. All of us. Hand in hand, supporting each other, The entire Westridge team emerged from the forest and crossed the field toward the finish line. They moved slowly, their formation uneven as each accommodated the other's needs, but they moved as one team. The crowd at the finish line noticed them. A hush fell, then scattered applause began, growing louder as more people joined in. Even members of other teams began to clap. As they crossed the finish line, last place in the race but together, the judge approached with his clipboard. "Westridge University," he said, "finished with all team members. Eastlake University had 2 members quit the course when it became too difficult." He consulted his notes. "According to the rules of the endurance challenge, finishing with your complete team earns bonus points. Combined with your previous scores." He looked up, a smile spreading across his face. "Westridge University wins this year's Coach War for HFY." A moment no one reacted, too surprised by the announcement. Then Coach Miller let out a whoop of joy, and the entire Westridge team erupted in celebration. Human students hugged each other and carefully patted their alien teammates. Coach Wilson pushed through the crowd, his face unreadable. He stopped in front of Coach Miller and held out his hand. "Congratulations," he said. "You taught us something important today." "What's that?" Coach Miller asked, shaking his hand. "That strength isn't just about being fast or tough," Coach Wilson replied, looking at the alien students. "It's about bringing everyone along with you." That evening, as the team celebrated with a special dinner, separate food for the aliens, of course, the 5 exchange students sat together, watching the humans laugh and talk around them. "I understand now," Blue said quietly. "Why Earth is classified differently from other planets." "Because it's so dangerous?" Green asked. Blue shook his head. "No. Because it produced a species that doesn't just survive danger. They turn it into a reason to help each other." Red nodded. "On most worlds, the strong survive by leaving the weak behind. On Earth," Purple finished, "the strong make sure everyone survives." They watched as Coach Miller raised the Coach War trophy, calling every team member, human and alien, to stand with him as he thanked them individually for their contribution. "Perhaps," Gray said, "that is the most alien concept we've encountered, yet. And the one most worth bringing back to the stars," Blue added. Their protective gear still hissed, beeped, and whirred as their bodies fought against Earth's hostile environment. But for the first time since arriving on this death world, they felt something unexpected, a sense of belonging. Not because they had conquered Earth's dangers, but because they had found friends willing to face those dangers with them. Earth remained a death world, but its true strength, the strength of cooperation, of refusing to leave anyone behind, was something worth traveling across the galaxy to discover. The year was 2057 when the last borders on Earth fell away. Not with a bang or even a whimper, but with signatures on paper and digital handshakes across video screens. Necessity had driven humanity together after the global resource crisis of the 2050s left no nation untouched. When the dust settled, the unified Earth government stood in place of the old world order. Director James Thomas stood at the large window of the Geneva headquarters, his weathered face reflecting in the glass as he looked down at the crowd celebrating below. At 63, he had seen enough of the old world to appreciate the new one they were building. "They're calling it Humanity Day now," said his assistant Robert, who stood a respectful distance behind him. Thomas nodded without turning. "A fitting name. For the first time we are truly one people." What the people celebrating in the streets didn't know was that in laboratories across the globe, another breakthrough was about to change everything. The next morning, Thomas sat at the head of a long table as Dr. Anna West, head of the Advanced Propulsion Division, activated the holographic display. "The Mercury drive works," she said simply. The room fell silent. "We've achieved 15% light speed in the test chamber." Thomas leaned forward. "And the energy requirements?" "A fraction of what we projected. We can build ships now, real ships, not just orbital platforms." 3 years later, the first Mercury-class vessel left Earth's orbit, reaching Mars in just 4 days. The crew planted a flag bearing not the symbol of any nation, but the blue and green Earth emblem that represented all humanity. By 2065, the first permanent colony on Mars housed 5,000 people. Europa followed 2 years later, then Titan by 2070. Earth watched with pride as humanity spread through the solar system with remarkable speed. Captain Mark Reynolds stood on the bridge of the UES Pathfinder, the most advanced ship in the United Fleet. At 42, he had already spent half his life in space. The mission was simple on paper: push beyond the solar system, find habitable worlds, and map a path for humanity's expansion. Final checks complete. His first officer, Lisa Baker, reported, "We're ready to activate the Mercury drive at your command." Reynolds nodded. "Let's make history." The stars shifted outside the viewport as the Pathfinder jumped to its cruise speed. Unknown to the humans, their departure was noted by no fewer than 3 alien observation posts hidden at the edges of the solar system. Their reports were similar: primitive species achieving space travel, nothing remarkable, continue monitoring. How wrong they were. The true game-changer came in 2073, when a mining operation in the asteroid belt discovered element X-27. Black, crystalline, and humming with energy. It was unlike anything scientists had seen before. Early tests showed it could generate power that made nuclear fusion look like a child's toy. Dr. Marcus Field, leading the research team, worked without sleep for days after the discovery. "It's not just energy," he explained to Director Thomas, "over a secure channel. X-27 warps space in ways we barely understand, but we're learning fast." Within a year, the first X-27 power plants were operating on Earth and Mars. Energy concerns vanished overnight. Resources once considered too expensive to access became readily available, and the Mercury drive evolved into something far more powerful. Meanwhile, Captain Reynolds and the Pathfinder had made the most important discovery in human history: a habitable world just 12 light-years from Earth. They named it New Eden. Oxygen levels at 22%, Baker reported as they orbited the planet. Gravity at 1.05 Earth standard. Temperature ranges compatible with human life. It's perfect. Reynolds stared at the blue-green world below. "Not perfect," he corrected. "But it's ours." By 2080, New Eden had 10,000 colonists. 3 more habitable worlds were discovered. Humanity expanded outward in all directions, building as they went. The alien civilizations watching this expansion reacted with mild interest at best. Most had been spacefaring for thousands or even millions of years. They had seen species rise before. Humans were moving unusually fast, but they were still newcomers, limited to a small corner of the galaxy. This was their first mistake. In the offices of the Earth government, now relocated to the massive orbital station called Unity, Director Thomas met with the heads of the scientific divisions. Now in his 80s, he moved slowly, but his mind remained sharp. "Show me what you've been working on," he said to Dr. West. She pulled up a new holographic display. "We're calling it the bridge," she explained. "Using concentrated X-27 energy, we can create a stable wormhole between 2 points in space." Thomas stared at the simulation. "How far can they reach?" "Currently, about 20 light-years. But the theory suggests we could eventually span hundreds." "Travel? Time? Instantaneous." Thomas smiled for the first time in weeks. Build it now." The first bridge was constructed in secret between Earth and Mars. When a ship passed through and emerged on the other side in seconds rather than days, humanity's trajectory changed forever. Alien observers noted the development with more interest. A few sent warnings to their governments. Most were ignored. The humans were clever, yes, but they were still contained to a tiny region of space. What harm could they do? By 2090, the bridge network connected Earth to 12 colony worlds. By 2095, that number had reached 30. Expansion accelerated as each new world became a launching point for further exploration. Captain Reynolds, now Admiral Reynolds, commanded the growing United Fleet from the flagship UES Defender. At 70, he had seen humanity transform from a single-planet species to a multi-system civilization. "We're receiving an unusual signal, Admiral," The communications officer reported one ordinary day. It's not one of ours. Reynolds straightened in his chair. Source? Deep space, far beyond our territory. For the first time, humanity received deliberate communication from an alien civilization. They called themselves the Trade Confederation, a loose alliance of 7 species who had been watching humanity's rise with interest. The message was simple. Greetings. We see you. We would talk. Director Thomas, in his final year before retirement, met with the first alien delegation aboard Unity Station. The aliens, tall, gray-skinned beings who communicated through translators, expressed surprise at humanity's rapid development. Your species has accomplished in 50 years what took ours 500, the lead delegate said. We wish to establish formal relations. Thomas nodded respectfully. Humanity would be honored. What neither Thomas nor any human knew was that the Trade Confederation was considered a minor power among galactic civilizations. Their interest in humanity was genuine, but limited. They shared little of what they knew about the larger galactic community. Thomas retired the following year, replaced by Director Wilson. The expansion continued. Humans now numbered in the billions across 30 worlds, with more colonies established each year. The bridge network grew more sophisticated. The United Fleet added dozens of ships, and still, the major powers of the galaxy paid little attention. Some noted the unusual speed of human development and suggested monitoring them more closely. Most dismissed these concerns. After all, what threat could such a young species pose to civilizations that had existed for millennia? They would learn their mistake too late. As the first century of human expansion came to a close, Admiral Reynolds stood once more at the viewport of his ship, looking out at the stars. He had seen humanity rise from nothing to claim its place among them. It was just the beginning. Send a message to all ships and colonies, he ordered. The first phase is complete. The silent ascension has succeeded. Now we prepare for what comes next. Across 30 worlds, humans looked up at alien skies and saw not just stars, but their future. They had built the foundation of an empire while the galaxy slept. Soon, everyone would know their name. 50 years had passed since humanity's first steps beyond the solar system. What had begun as a desperate push for survival had transformed into something no alien civilization had predicted. A human empire spanning 30 worlds, connected by a network of artificial wormholes that made distance almost meaningless. Admiral John Walker stood on the observation deck of Nexus Station, the massive command center that orbited Earth. At 45, he had never known a time when humans were confined to a single planet. The stories of Earth's troubled past seemed like ancient history to him. Status report, he said to his second-in-command, Captain Davis. The United Fleet now stands at 217 ships, Admiral. 30 major vessels and 187 support craft, Davis replied. The newest Mercury-class ships are ready for their final tests. Walker nodded with satisfaction. The ships represented humanity's greatest technological achievement. Warships that could match anything known to exist in the galaxy, though they had never been tested in actual combat. And the bridge network? Stable across all 30 colonies. Professor Miller's team reports the new quantum stabilizers are performing beyond expectations. The bridge network had been humanity's true advantage, while most alien civilizations relied on faster-than-light drives that still took weeks or months to cross between systems. Humans could step from one world to another in seconds. This simple fact had allowed their empire to grow and stay connected in ways their neighbors couldn't match. Professor Linda Miller was perhaps the most brilliant mind of her generation. At 38, she had already revolutionized quantum physics twice. Her laboratory on Europa Station was the center of human scientific advancement. The new communication system is ready, she told her team as they gathered around a simple-looking device on the lab table. If it works, we'll be able to send messages across the Empire without any delay at all. Her assistant, Dr. Parker, looked skeptical. Faster than the bridge network? The bridges move matter. This moves information, much simpler in theory. She activated the device. On a similar table in a lab on New Eden, 12 light-years away, an identical light began blinking. At exactly the same moment, quantum entanglement communication, Miller said with a small smile. No delay, no interception possible. We just changed everything again. Within months, QECOM units were standard on all human worlds and ships. The entire empire could now communicate and coordinate instantly, regardless of distance, another advantage no one else possessed. The Directorate, the governing body that had evolved from the old Earth government, met in the Grand Chamber of Unity Station. High Director Wilson, now in his 10th year of service, addressed the representatives from all 30 worlds. Our expansion continues according to plan, he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. 5 new colony ships will depart next month. By this time next year, we will have added 6 more worlds to our territory. A representative from Mars stood up. And what of our neighbors? The Trade Confederation has requested increased access to our markets. Wilson nodded thoughtfully. We maintain good relations with the Confederation. Limited trade continues. But we must remember our policy. We share technology with no one. This policy had served humanity well. While they learned what they could, from alien contacts they revealed little of their own advances. Most alien civilizations still viewed humans as newcomers with interesting but primitive technology. The Directorate worked hard to maintain this illusion. In reality, human technology had already surpassed many of their neighbors. Professor Miller's team had reverse-engineered every piece of alien tech they could acquire, then improved upon it. Human ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their defenses stronger than anyone suspected. The Trade Confederation, comprised of 7 different alien species, served as humanity's main window to the larger galactic community. Through carefully controlled interactions, humans learned about the major powers, the Alliance, the Dominion, the Elder Collective, without drawing too much attention from them. Ambassador Taylor, humanity's chief diplomat, met regularly with Confederation representatives on the neutral station known as Meeting Point. A tall, elegant woman with gray hair, she had a gift for revealing nothing while seeming completely transparent. We appreciate the Confederation's friendship, she told the alien delegates during one such meeting. Humanity is still finding its place among the stars. Gorak, the lead Confederation representative whose species resembled tall, thin humanoids with blue-tinted skin, tilted his head. Yet you expand at remarkable speed. Some within the Alliance have begun to take notice. Taylor kept her expression neutral. We are simply eager to explore. Our history on Earth taught us that opportunities must be seized when they appear. What she didn't mention was that the 30 worlds known to the Confederation were only the public face of human territory. Behind the official colonies lay 15 more secret worlds, connected by hidden bridges, where humanity's most advanced research and military facilities operated in complete secrecy. At one such world, named Shadow Base in official records, Admiral Walker inspected the newest addition to the United Fleet. The UES Thunderbolt looked unlike any previous human vessel, sleeker, darker, with weapon systems that drew on the latest understanding of X-27 energy manipulation. How many of these can we build? He asked the base commander. With current resources? 20 within the year. More if the Directorate approves the expansion of the shipyards at Proxima and Tau Ceti. Walker ran his hand along the smooth hull. Build them. I want 50 by next year. The Admiral had studied the known capabilities of alien warships extensively. The Thunderbolt could outmatch anything the Trade Confederation possessed. It might even stand against Alliance vessels, though. That was a test he hoped to avoid. Professor Miller's team, meanwhile, had made another breakthrough. In her secure laboratory beneath Europa's icy surface, she demonstrated the new technology to High Director Wilson himself. We call it the Shield, she explained as energy formed a dome around a test object. It absorbs incoming energy attacks and redirects 90% of kinetic impacts. Wilson watched as test weapons fired at the protected object. Nothing penetrated. How much power does it require? That's the beauty of it, Miller said with pride. An X-27 crystal the size of my thumb can power a shield large enough to protect a small city for a year. The High Director nodded slowly. Install them on our major colonies immediately. Priority to the border worlds. Miller hesitated. Sir, if we start deploying this technology widely, it will be noticed. Yes, Wilson agreed. But I believe the time for complete secrecy is coming to an end. He was right. Despite humanity's best efforts, their rapid expansion had begun to draw more attention. The Alliance, a coalition of the oldest and most powerful spacefaring races, had finally taken serious notice of the upstart humans. The Elder Council of the Alliance met in their ancient chamber on a world whose name couldn't be properly pronounced by human tongues. The 12 council members, each from a different species, reviewed reports on human activity. They have expanded to 45 worlds, said one counselor, unaware that the true number was closer to 60. No species has ever grown so quickly. They build ships at an alarming rate, added another. Their technology advances with each passing cycle. The head elder, a being who had lived for over 1,000 years, raised a hand for silence. Perhaps it is time we welcomed these humans properly into galactic society. Under our guidance, of course. The motion passed unanimously. A diplomatic mission would be sent to human space, offering membership in the Alliance, as a junior. Associate, naturally. No one doubted the humans would accept the honor. Meanwhile, on the human colony of New Hope, orbital sensors detected unusual ship movements near the border of what was known to be Alliance space. Commander Sam Green, in charge of the colony's defense, sent an immediate QE-com message to Earth. Unidentified vessels moving in formation. Pattern suggests military. Request instructions. Within seconds, Admiral Walker's reply came through. Observe only. Do not engage. Fleet elements are en route to your position. The quiet empire was quiet no longer. After 50 years of careful expansion and preparation, humanity was about to step onto the larger stage whether they wanted to or not. The question remaining, would they enter as equals, subordinates, or something else entirely? 20 years had passed since humanity's first encounters with the wider galactic community. What the alien civilizations had once dismissed as a curious young species had grown into an empire spanning over 100 worlds, though only 60 were publicly acknowledged. The rest remained hidden, connected by secret bridge pathways that didn't appear on any shared star charts. Dr. Emma Phillips stood in her laboratory deep within Titan Research Station, watching as her team carefully disassembled an Alliance communication device. At 48, she had spent her entire adult life heading the Special Projects Division, the organization responsible for studying, understanding, and improving upon alien technology. Interesting, she murmured, pointing to a crystalline component in the device. Their quantum entanglement method is elegant but inefficient. They're still using paired crystals for each connection. Her assistant, Dr. Harris, nodded. Our network uses a single master crystal that can maintain thousands of connections simultaneously. And they have no idea we're this far ahead, Phillips said with a small smile. Make sure we understand every aspect of their design before we send the report to the Directorate. This was how humanity had risen so quickly. While appearing cooperative and even somewhat primitive to outside observers, human scientists had been systematically acquiring, studying, and improving upon every piece of alien technology they could access. The Special Projects Division now employed over 10,000 researchers across a dozen hidden facilities. On Unity Station, High Director Alan Wilson met with the Directorate Council, 12 men and women who effectively governed the entire human empire. At 70, Wilson had led humanity's expansion for 15 years with a careful balance of diplomacy and strategic planning. The Alliance has requested another meeting, he informed the Council. Their diplomatic vessel will arrive at meeting point in 3 days. Council member Jackson frowned. This is the third request in as many months. They're becoming insistent. They want us to join them, Wilson replied. As a protected associate species. Their diplomatic language is polite, but the meaning is clear. They expect our submission. The council chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. For decades, humanity had maintained the appearance of a moderately successful young civilization, while secretly building an empire that could rival the major powers. That careful deception was coming to an end. "What do our intelligence reports say about Alliance movements?" asked Council Member Rodriguez. Wilson activated the holographic display at the center of the table. A three-dimensional map of nearby space appeared, with human territories in blue and Alliance space in red. Commander Stone's reconnaissance mission returned yesterday. The Alliance has been moving ships to 3 systems near our border. Their official explanation is standard military exercises, but the pattern suggests preparation for something more. Commander Jack Stone was humanity's best intelligence officer. His small, fast ships had been mapping Alliance territory and movements for years, gathering critical information while remaining undetected. At 35, he had already completed more high-risk missions than anyone in the United Fleet. Stone stood before Admiral Walker in the secure briefing room of Nexus Station, his uniform still bearing the dust from the frontier world he'd just returned from. "They're not just moving ships, Admiral," Stone explained, pointing to specific locations on the star map. "They're establishing forward supply bases, upgrading their communication relays, and positioning their faster vessels at strategic jump points. These aren't exercises, this is pre-war positioning." Walker's expression remained grim. "Your evidence?" Stone activated his data pad, showing intercepted communication patterns. "We've been monitoring their quantum traffic. The encryption is good, but Dr. Phillips's team cracked it 3 months ago. The Alliance Elder Council has decided that humanity's expansion represents a destabilizing influence on regional power dynamics. They see us as a threat," Walker concluded. "Yes, sir. And they're preparing to neutralize that threat before we grow any stronger." The Admiral was silent for a long moment. "Recommendations?" "We should activate the Sentinel Protocol immediately. Move our reserve fleets to the border colonies. And," Stone hesitated, "it's time to reveal some of our technological advantages. Not all of them, but enough to make the Alliance reconsider direct action." Walker nodded slowly. "I'll take this to the Directorate. In the meantime, I want your team back out there. Find out exactly when and where they plan to move." The Alliance diplomatic vessel that arrived at meeting point 3 days later was impressive, a massive ship adorned with the symbols of the 12 elder races. Ambassador Taylor led the human delegation aboard with practiced diplomacy, showing appropriate awe at the vessel's grandeur while revealing nothing of humanity's true capabilities. The Alliance ambassador, a tall being named Velix, from one of the founding species, welcomed them with elaborate courtesy. "We are pleased you accepted our invitation so promptly. The Elder Council is eager to formalize relations between our civilizations." Taylor smiled politely. "Humanity is honored by the Alliance's interest. We have much to learn from such ancient and wise species." The meeting proceeded as expected. The Alliance offered membership to humanity as a protected associate, a status that would place human worlds under Alliance guidance for at least 500 years. In exchange, humans would receive access to certain technologies and trade routes previously closed to them. What the Alliance representatives didn't know was that humanity already possessed technology more advanced than what they were offering. The Trade Confederation, seeing opportunity in humanity's rise, had been more generous with information than the Alliance realized. "This is a generous offer," Taylor said carefully. "However, humanity values its independence. We would prefer a treaty of mutual cooperation between equals." Velix's expression changed subtly. "Perhaps you misunderstand. The Alliance does not form equal partnerships with young species. Your civilization is barely a century old. Some members of the Council were already ancient, when your ancestors were still confined to a single continent on Earth. Age does not always equate to superiority," Taylor replied, her tone still respectful but firm. "We would be happy to demonstrate what humanity has accomplished in our brief time among the stars." The diplomatic exchange continued for hours, growing increasingly tense as the humans refused to accept subordinate status. Finally, Velix delivered what was clearly a prepared statement. "The Elder Council has expressed concern about humanity's rapid expansion. For the stability of this region of space, the Alliance must insist on certain limitations to human territory and military development. These are non-negotiable terms for our continued peaceful relations. Taylor's expression never changed, though. She understood exactly what this meant. I will convey the Alliance's position to the Directorate. We will require time for consideration. As the human delegation departed, Velix sent an encrypted message to the Elder Council. Humans refuse reasonable terms. Recommend proceeding with containment strategy. Unknown to the Alliance, this message was intercepted and decoded by human intelligence systems before it even reached its destination. Back on Earth, the Directorate Council met in emergency session. High Director Wilson shared Commander Stone's intelligence and the results of the diplomatic meeting. The Alliance intends to contain us by force if necessary, Wilson stated flatly. They've underestimated our development and see us as a potential rival that must be controlled before we grow too powerful. Have they underestimated us? Council Member Jackson asked. Dr. Phillips, called in to advise the Council, answered that question, significantly. Their military technology is impressive, but we've made advancements they can't imagine. Our shield systems are generations beyond theirs. Our weapons use principles they haven't discovered. And most importantly, they have no knowledge of our hidden worlds or the true extent of our industrial capacity. Wilson looked around the table. We have 3 choices. Submit to Alliance control, reveal our true strength and try to negotiate from a position of power, or prepare for conflict. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not submit. Within days, the United Fleet moved into high alert status. Shield generators were activated on all border colonies. The hidden shipyards at Proxima and Tau Ceti began accelerating production of the advanced Thunderbolt-class warships. On the colony world of New Hope, the furthest human settlement along the Alliance border, Governor Harris addressed the colonists. In the main plaza, for 50 years we have built our civilization carefully and quietly, he told the gathered crowd. We have prepared for this moment, when the older powers would try to put us in our place. But humanity will not be controlled. We will stand as equals in this galaxy, or we will not stand at all. What none of them knew, not the humans or the Alliance, was that other eyes were watching these developments with great interest. Far beyond the borders of known space, ancient sensors detected the rising tensions. The foreigners who had watched civilizations rise and fall for millennia turned their attention to this new conflict. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reveal the true face of humanity's empire to the galaxy. The time for secrecy was ending. The time for revelation had begun. The attack came without warning. 3 human colony worlds along the Alliance border erupted in chaos as alien ships appeared from hyperspace. New Hope, Frontier, and Liberty, all border settlements with populations between 50 and 100,000, found themselves under bombardment as Alliance cruisers targeted communication centers and defense installations. Governor Harris of New Hope was in the middle of his morning briefing when the first explosions rocked the colony's main complex. Status report, he shouted as emergency lights flooded the command center. 4 Alliance warships in orbit, his security chief responded, voice steady despite the crisis. They're targeting our communication array and power distribution centers. Shield systems are active but taking heavy fire. Harris had known this might happen. All border colonies had been prepared for the possibility of attack. Initiate Emergency Protocol 7. Get all civilians to the shelters and send the distress signal. The QE-com operator nodded, activating the quantum entanglement device that would instantly alert Earth and the United Fleet, regardless of distance. Across all 3 colonies, similar scenes played out. Alliance forces struck with precision, aiming to disable rather than destroy. Their goal wasn't to annihilate the human settlements, but to cut them off from the rest of human space and demonstrate Alliance power. What they didn't expect was the strength of the human response. On Nexus Station, Admiral Walker received the distress signals simultaneously. Without hesitation, he issued the order that the United Fleet had been prepared to execute for years. Thunderbolt Squadron, deploy to all targeted colonies. Response Protocol Omega is authorized. Within moments, 20 of humanity's most advanced warships activated their bridge drives. The technology that alien civilizations believed was limited To civilian transport between established wormhole gates was, in fact, far more versatile in human hands. The Thunderbolts could create temporary bridge connections anywhere within 50 light-years, allowing them to appear directly in orbit around the contested colonies. The Alliance commanders were still methodically disabling colonial defenses when their sensor operators reported new contacts. Before they could react, human warships materialized around them, weapons already charged. The battle above New Hope lasted less than 5 minutes. 2 Alliance cruisers were disabled by precision strikes before they could raise shields. The third managed to return fire but found its energy weapons absorbed by the colony's shield system. The fourth attempted to retreat into hyperspace but was caught by the Thunderbolt's tractor beams, technology the Alliance believed humans didn't possess. Similar scenes played out above Frontier and Liberty. In all 3 cases, the human response was measured, disabling rather than destroying Alliance vessels when possible. Admiral Walker received the after-action reports with grim satisfaction. Casualties: 27 colonists dead across all 3 worlds, sir. Infrastructure damage is significant but repairable. All Alliance vessels have been neutralized. 4 destroyed when they refused to surrender. 9 captured intact. Walker nodded. And our ships? The UES Defiant took moderate damage at Liberty. 2 crewmen injured. No other significant damage to report. The speed and efficiency of the human response shocked the Alliance commanders who had expected to face primitive defenses and outdated ships. Instead, they encountered technology that matched or exceeded their own. High Director Wilson addressed an emergency session of the Directorate Council as reports from the battle came in. The Alliance has made their position clear, he said, his voice hard. They claim our colonies violated territorial agreements that we never signed. This was a calculated first strike intended to demonstrate our vulnerability and force our submission. Council. Member Rodriguez spoke up. Their attack failed. Our response was swift and effective. Perhaps now they'll be willing to negotiate as equals. Wilson shook his head. Intelligence suggests this was only their first move. Commander Stone's scouts report significant fleet movements throughout Alliance space. They're mobilizing for a larger conflict. The Council voted unanimously to declare a state of war against the Alliance. After decades of quiet preparation, humanity would finally reveal its true strength. Dr. Phillips and her team worked around the clock studying the captured Alliance vessels. The ships contained technology that humans hadn't previously encountered, offering new possibilities for advancement. Their engine design is actually quite elegant, she told Admiral Walker during a secure briefing. Different approach than ours, but effective. We can incorporate elements into our next generation of ships. How long? To adapt the best features? 3 months? To implement in new construction? 6 to 8 months, Walker frowned. We may not have that much time. Your assessment of their weapons systems? Advanced, but not as advanced as they should be for a civilization of their age, Phillips replied. Almost as if they've stagnated. They've been the dominant power for so long that they've stopped innovating. This was humanity's true advantage. While the Alliance had maintained technological superiority through controlled advancement over thousands of years, humans had compressed centuries of development into decades through aggressive research and adaptation. Commander Stone led the first major human counteroffensive. Using intelligence gathered during his reconnaissance missions, he identified an Alliance outpost near human space that served as a forward operating base for their forces. The attack force consisted of 15 Thunderbolt-class ships and 30 support vessels, a small fraction of humanity's true military strength, but more than the Alliance believed humans could field. Stone addressed the fleet from the bridge of the UES Vengeance. This operation is not about revenge. It's about sending a message. The Alliance needs to understand that humanity won't be subjugated. We take their outpost, we demonstrate our capability, and we offer them a chance to negotiate as equals. The battle lasted less than an hour. The Alliance outpost had been well defended with 12 warships and multiple orbital weapons platforms. But they weren't prepared for the coordinated assault from ships that could create bridge portals at will, appearing and disappearing across the battlefield to strike from unexpected vectors. When it was over, The human fleet had captured the outpost intact, along with 3 Alliance vessels and over 500 prisoners. Stone ordered all Alliance personnel treated with respect and proper medical care. Another message to their leadership. The Alliance Elder Council received news of the defeat with shock. The head of their military forces, Grand Marshal Zorak, struggled to explain the disaster. The humans used technology we didn't know they possessed, he reported. Their ships can generate temporary wormholes at will. Their weapons cut through our shields as if they weren't there, and their coordination was perfect, as if there was no communication delay across the battlefield. The Elder Council was silent for a long moment before the head elder spoke. How did we misjudge them so severely? Our estimates suggested they were at least a century away from this level of advancement. They hid their true capabilities, Zorak replied. Everything they showed us publicly was a carefully constructed illusion. The humans we've been observing are not the humans we're fighting. The war expanded rapidly. Alliance forces launched attacks on 5 more human colonies, only to be met with increasingly effective resistance. Human fleets struck deep into Alliance territory, targeting military installations while avoiding civilian populations. The Trade Confederation officially declared neutrality, but secretly began providing intelligence to humanity. Some members of the Confederation had long chafed under Alliance dominance and saw the human rebellion as an opportunity for change. Dr. Phillips's team worked continuously to adapt captured Alliance technology. Each engagement provided new data and equipment to study. Human ships were upgraded with improved systems while in transit between battles, allowing them to stay one step ahead of Alliance forces. They're adapting to our tactics, Admiral Walker noted during a strategy session with his commanders. Their ships are now equipped with countermeasures against our bridge drive insertion points. Commander Stone nodded. And they're coordinating better. The element of surprise is fading. Then we show them something new, Walker decided. Activate the Phantom Protocol. The Phantom Protocol represented one of humanity's most closely guarded technological advances. Using a combination of X-27 energy manipulation and quantum field generation, human ships could effectively mask their signature from standard detection systems, becoming ghosts on the battlefield. When the next major Alliance fleet assembled to strike at the human colony of New Terra, they found themselves under attack from ships that their sensors couldn't reliably track. The battle ended in another Alliance defeat with heavy losses. High Director Wilson addressed the entire human empire via QE-Com broadcast. His message reached every colony, ship, and outpost simultaneously, a demonstration of connectivity that no other civilization could match. Citizens of humanity, he began, his voice steady and resolute. The conflict that we have long prepared for has begun. The Alliance sought to contain us, to force us into submission as they have done with so many others. They believed us weak because we are young. They believed us primitive because we allowed them to think so. His expression hardened. We have revealed only a fraction of our true strength. For decades, we have built this empire in the shadows while the galaxy's powers looked elsewhere. We developed technologies they cannot match. We expanded to worlds they don't know exist. We prepared, knowing this day would come. Wilson's voice softened slightly. We do not seek dominion. We seek only the right to determine our own destiny among the stars. We offer the Alliance peace, as equals, not as subjects. Until they accept this reality, we will continue to defend our people and our future with every means at our disposal. The message was translated and transmitted to Alliance worlds as well. For the first time, the galaxy began to understand what humanity had truly become, while no one was watching. As the war spread across multiple star systems, neither side yet realized that another force was stirring. The ancient and mysterious, foreigners who had observed galactic civilization for millennia had noted the unusual conflict with growing interest. Soon they would make their presence known, and the war between humanity and the Alliance would seem insignificant by comparison. The war between humanity and the Alliance had raged for 6 months. Across dozens of star systems, the conflict had escalated from border skirmishes to full-scale battles involving hundreds of ships. Both sides had suffered significant losses. 7. Human colonies had been damaged or temporarily occupied, while Alliance forces had lost control of 12 outposts and 3 minor worlds. Captain Ben Roberts stood on the bridge of the UES Explorer, a specialized scouting vessel operating deep in contested space. At 34, Roberts had a reputation for finding what others missed. His current mission was to investigate unusual energy readings detected during recent battles. "Anything new, Dr. Patel?" he asked the science officer who had been analyzing data for the past 8 hours. Dr. Patel looked up from her station, dark circles under her eyes. "Something doesn't make sense, Captain. These energy signatures we've been tracking, they don't match Alliance technology. They don't match our technology either." Roberts frowned. "Could it be another civilization? The Trade Confederation, perhaps?" "No, sir, I've checked against all known signatures in our database. This is something else." The Explorer continued its survey, following the mysterious energy trail to an uninhabited system 30 light-years from the nearest human colony. What they found there changed everything. "Captain, to the bridge." The urgent call woke Roberts from a light sleep. He rushed to his post, still pulling on his uniform jacket. "Report." The sensor operator's voice was tight with tension. "Massive structure detected at the edge of the system, sir. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." The main view screen showed an enormous artificial construct, a ring-shaped station at least 50 kilometers in diameter, surrounded by smaller structures that seemed to be moving independently. "Are we detected?" Roberts asked quietly. "I don't think so, sir. We're running silent with Phantom Protocol active, but there's something else you need to see." The display shifted to show a closer view of ships docked at the massive station. Some were clearly Alliance designs, others were unknown. "Those aren't Alliance ships," Dr. Patel said, pointing to the strangers. "The design is unlike anything in our records, and the energy signature they're emitting matches what we've been tracking." Roberts studied the image carefully. "Are they working together, Alliance and these unknowns?" "No, sir," the tactical officer interrupted. "Look at the Alliance vessels. Scanning shows heavy damage. They appear to be captured." The Explorer maintained its hidden position, observing as more ships arrived, some Alliance, some human. All were intercepted by the strange vessels and brought to the massive station. "We need to report this immediately," Roberts decided. "Prepare a complete data package for QECOM transmission to Nexus Command." Before they could send their report, sensors detected a new energy surge. "Something's coming through," the tactical officer shouted. "Massive portal opening, not a bridge drive, not Alliance hyperdrive, something else entirely." The fabric of space seemed to tear open as an enormous ship emerged, easily 5 times the size of the largest human or Alliance vessel. Its design was organic and unsettling, like nothing human eyes had seen before. "Get us out of here," Roberts ordered. "Bridge drive to emergency coordinates now." The Explorer escaped just as the massive ship turned in their direction, but they had seen enough. At Nexus Command, Admiral Walker and High Director Wilson reviewed the Explorer's report with growing concern. "So we have an unknown third party intercepting both human and Alliance ships," Walker summarized. "And based on the size of that station and the mothership, they've been operating in this region for some time." Wilson nodded grimly. "The question is, why reveal themselves now? Why intercept our ships during this conflict?" Commander Stone, who had been silently studying the data, spoke up. "Because we're weakening each other. This war has drawn significant forces from both sides into exposed positions, perfect targets for whoever these entities are." "Could the Alliance be aware of them?" Walker asked. "I don't think so," Stone replied. "The captured Alliance ships suggest they're as much victims as we are. This explains the mysterious ship disappearances both sides have reported during the war." Wilson made a decision. "We need to make contact with the Alliance leadership. This situation changes everything." Arranging a meeting between enemies in the middle of a war proved challenging. Eventually, a neutral location was established on a Trade Confederation station. Admiral Walker represented humanity while Grand Marshal Zorak spoke for the Alliance. "This had better be important," Zorak said coldly as they sat across from each other. "Your forces attacked 2 more of our outposts yesterday." Walker pushed a data tablet across the table. "We have a bigger problem than each other, Marshal. Review this data." As Zorak examined the explorer's findings, his expression changed from skepticism to shock. "This is verified?" "Completely. We've lost 27 ships to unknown causes during this conflict. I suspect you have similar losses that couldn't be attributed to our forces." The Alliance commander was silent for a long moment. 35 vessels. "We believed your phantom technology was responsible." "We're being played against each other," Walker said plainly. "While we fight, these beings are picking off our ships and studying our technology." Zorak looked up sharply. "You think they engineered this conflict?" "No. But they're certainly taking advantage of it. The question is, what do we do about it?" What followed was unprecedented. A joint human alliance mission to investigate the GU, mysterious third party. Commander Stone led the human contingent with 3 Thunderbolt-class ships operating alongside 2 Alliance cruisers under the command of Sub-Marshal Tivik. They established a hidden observation post near the system where the Explorer had made its discovery. For 2 weeks they watched as more ships were brought to the massive station. "They're taking them apart," Stone observed as they watched a captured vessel being systematically disassembled, studying every component. Tivik, the Alliance commander, nodded. "Not just studying. They're integrating our technology into their own. Look at the newer interceptors. They have elements of both our designs." Their observation ended abruptly when their position was discovered. A dozen of the unknown ships appeared through space-tearing portals, surrounding the joint force before they could escape. What followed was a desperate battle. Human and Alliance ships fought side by side against an enemy that seemed to anticipate their tactics. 3 vessels were lost before Stone ordered an emergency retreat through a bridge portal. Back at Nexus Command, the survivors reported their findings to a joint Human Alliance Council. "They call themselves the Foreigners," Dr. Phillips explained, having analyzed communication attempts during the encounter. "From what we could decode, they've been observing civilizations in this galaxy for thousands of years. Observing and stealing technology," Stone added. "They take what works from each species they encounter, adding it to their own capabilities." Grand Marshal Zorak, now on Nexus Station with a delegation of Alliance officials, asked the critical question, "What do they want?" "Resources, territory, knowledge," Dr. Phillips replied. "But mostly they seem to view other species as simply beneath them, test subjects for study. Our conflict gave them the perfect opportunity to collect samples from both our civilizations." "Hi." Director Wilson looked around the table at the assembled leaders, human and alien together. "Then we have a choice. Continue our war and be picked apart by these foreigners, or set aside our differences and face this new threat together." The decision wasn't easy. Decades of mistrust couldn't be erased overnight. But faced with extinction at the hands of the foreigners, a fragile alliance formed between former enemies. Dr. Phillips made the critical breakthrough while studying Alliance scientific data alongside her own research. "The foreigners have a weakness," she announced during an emergency council session. "Their ships and technology show unusual sensitivity to X-27 radiation. The element we discovered in our asteroid belt," Wilson noted. "The one that powers most of our advanced systems." "Yes. The Alliance has encountered similar elements but never developed methods to control it as we have. When exposed to concentrated X-27 radiation, foreign technology becomes unstable. Their organic mechanical systems begin to break down." Admiral Walker looked to the Alliance representatives. "Our X-27 weapons combined with your long-range delivery systems." For the first time, Zorak smiled. "Might be exactly what we need." The joint fleet assembled near Earth became the largest military force the galaxy had seen in millennia. Human ships with their bridge drives and X-27 weapons formed the core, while Alliance vessels with their superior sensors and defense systems provided support. Captain Roberts, promoted for his discovery, led the advanced scout force. They confirmed what intelligence had suggested. The foreigners had launched a major offensive, capturing or destroying dozens of outlying colonies and outposts. "They're moving toward the core worlds," Roberts reported. "Both human and Alliance territories. At their current pace, they'll reach Earth in 2 weeks." The final battle took place near Saturn, where the joint fleet intercepted the foreign armada before it could reach Earth. Hundreds of ships engaged in a conflict that stretched across the entire solar system. The foreigners' massive mothership emerged through its portal directly in Earth's orbit, bypassing the defensive lines. Admiral Walker, commanding the last reserve force, moved to intercept. "They're targeting our bridge network control centers," his tactical officer reported. "If they take those out, we lose our greatest advantage." "Not going to happen," Walker said firmly. "All ships, implement Operation Sunburst." 20 human vessels activated their X-27 weapons simultaneously, creating a wave of radiation that washed over the foreign mothership. Its organic components began to wither under the assault. The Alliance forces, following the coordinated plan, launched precision strikes at the weakened sections. For a moment, it seemed the attack had failed, as the massive ship continued its advance toward Earth. Then, deep within the foreign vessel, secondary explosions began. The chain reaction spread rapidly through its enormous bulk. The mothership's destruction was visible from Earth's surface, a new brief star in the sky that faded as quickly as it had appeared. Without their command vessel, the remaining foreign ships attempted to retreat. Some escaped, many didn't. In the aftermath, representatives from humanity and the Alliance met on Unity Station to formalize their new relationship. The Elder Council had been humbled by the experience, recognizing that age did not always equate to wisdom or power. High Director Wilson addressed the assembled delegates. "We came to the stars less than a century ago, believing ourselves alone. We built our empire quietly, preparing for a place among the ancient civilizations of the galaxy. We never expected to find ourselves fighting for the survival of all." The head elder of the Alliance responded with unexpected humility. "Perhaps it was necessary. Had we welcomed humanity as equals from the beginning, had we shared our knowledge openly instead of guarding it jealously, we might have been better prepared for the foreigners." The treaty signed that day established a new order, the Galactic Concord, where species would be judged not by their age but by their contributions. Humanity and the Alliance would share technology and resources, with the Trade Confederation and other powers invited to join as equal partners. Admiral Walker and Commander Stone stood at the observation deck of Nexus Station, watching Earth rotate slowly below them. "Do you think they're really gone?" Stone asked quietly. Walker shook his head. "The foreigners? No. We hurt them badly, but a civilization that advanced doesn't disappear completely. They'll be back eventually." "And we'll be ready," Stone said, with confidence. "Yes," Walker agreed. "But not just humanity this time. All of us, together." As ships from a dozen different species moved through the space around Earth, the quiet empire that humanity had built transformed into something new, the foundation of a united galaxy that could face any threat, foreign or familiar, with collective strength and shared wisdom. The empire no one saw coming had become the alliance everyone needed,